10 years into our marriage, I finally got pregnant, but he asked for a divorce. He said he hadn't cheated, he just didn't love me anymore. The night I walked out of the villa with my suitcase, I got into a car accident. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day he proposed to me. 22-year-old Ethan held a large bouquet of sunflowers and told me he would love me forever. As ran towards me, smiling, I was gently rubbing my lower abdomen. Whether it was my completely flat lower abdomen or being on the university campus, both signs indicated I had traveled back in time. It was graduation season, with temperatures close to 40 degrees Celsius, yet I was drenched in a cold sweat. The image of the speeding car crashing into me, and the sticky blood between my legs before I lost consciousness, kept flashing before my eyes. My child. Tears streamed from my eyes like broken pearls, falling with soft splatters. Ethan wore an inexpensive but clean white shirt, smiling as he weaved through the crowd, running step by step towards me. That was the young, 22-year-old Ethan, not yet constantly frowning or full of impatience. Luna. Luna? His eyes were wide with surprise, one hand frantically searching for a tissue in his pocket. Luna, why are you crying? Is your stomach still bothering you? His eyes red with heartache, he gently wiped the tears from my face with a tissue. Only then did I clearly see his face was bruised and swollen, as if he'd just been in a fight. A long-forgotten memory instantly surfaced in my mind, and I definitively pinpointed the current time. Senior year, the last day to finalize graduation paperwork. Ethan and I had both found internship companies months ago. We planned to use the money earned from our internships to settle in this city. A few days prior, my supervisor informed me that, due to my excellent performance during the internship, there was a strong possibility of becoming a full-time employee. Overjoyed, I immediately shared the good news with Ethan. However, that very evening, under the pretense of celebrating my upcoming full-time position, the manager and supervisor called me into a private dining room. As the drinks I'd been forced to consume went down, I finally realized something was wrong. I immediately sent a distress text message to Ethan, praying he would arrive quickly. But when the two men became increasingly inappropriate, even placing their hands on my leg, I couldn't hold back and flipped the table. I was terrified beyond measure, my hand trembling as I reached for the door. The drinks I'd been forced to consume earlier also began to take effect, making my steps unsteady as I desperately ran towards the exit. The chaotic footsteps behind me grew closer, and their curses gradually drowned out my cries for help. Just as my heart filled with despair, I ran headfirst into a comforting embrace. The familiar scent of mint instantly filled my nostrils, drawing tears from my eyes. Before I was 22, I had never seen Ethan like that. He was like a furious lion, throwing punch after punch at the two burly middle-aged men. I crouched by the elevator, clutching my stomach which cramped with pain. The last thing I saw was the supervisor grabbing a chair and fiercely smashing it down on Ethan. And now, that bruised and swollen young man was holding a wrapped bouquet of sunflowers, gently wiping my tears. Don't cry, Luna. It's all my fault for not protecting you. I promise I'll never let you face such danger again. His slightly reddened eyes were full of sincerity. Look, I specifically brought you your favorite sunflowers. You said it yourself, it represents steadfast and enduring love. He pressed his lips together, then took 2 deep breaths as if psyching himself up. Luna, will you marry me? I will always protect you and love you. He said it with such earnestness, such certainty. But this face, not yet touched by power, gradually merged in my mind with 32-year-old Ethan. I pressed one hand to my lower abdomen and fiercely dug my nails into the palm of my other hand. Under his hopeful gaze, I swatted away the bouquet of flowers. Around us, the playful taunts of our classmates abruptly stopped. We had been almost inseparable for these 4 years. Everyone, including myself back then, was convinced we would marry and spend our lives together, nurtured by love. But now, I hated him so much. Ethan was the first to react. He quickly picked up the flowers, looking somewhat flustered. Luna, what's wrong? Did I do something wrong? Ethan, let's break up. What did you say? Break up. Don't contact me again. He widened his eyes slightly. Luna, you're joking, right? I thought I would scream hysterically at him, but my voice was surprisingly calm. No, I'm serious. I don't love you anymore, Ethan. I'll move my belongings from the rental apartment as soon as possible. Don't contact me again. I quickly double-checked my graduation paperwork, and finding no omissions, I turned and walked out with my backpack. A few classmates who knew us well caught up to me, earnestly trying to persuade me. Luna, what's wrong? Have you lost your mind? Exactly, where would you find a boyfriend as good as Ethan? You really need to think this through. I responded politely to each of them, but my legs didn't stop moving forward. Luna. Ethan's trembling voice came again, and I turned back impatiently. When he saw my expression, he froze, his lips trembling a few times before he finally said nothing more. Just as I was about to leave the university campus, a girl called out to me from behind. Luna. The moment I heard her voice, I unconsciously clenched my hands. Ashley, the woman who was lying half-naked beneath Ethan when I pushed open the bedroom door with my pregnancy lab results that day. Luna, what's going on with you and Ethan? I turned around and looked at her calmly. We broke up. Are you happy? For she could retort, I added, now he can openly bring you sanitary pads. They're all yours. I don't want anything anymore. Ashley, Ethan, and I were all university students who came from the same orphanage. We were 2 years older than her, so we took extra care of her at school. She'd call Ethan Ethan, but me, she always just called Luna. Even though I had taken care of her more over the years, I knew what it felt like to be an orphan. To have no relatives in this world, no one connected to you by blood. I always thought how lucky Ethan and I were, at least we had each other for companionship and support. But those other kids, they had nothing. Ethan and I had been working hourly jobs every holiday since middle school. We saved some of the money for our studies to lighten Mama's burden. The rest, I'd secretly give to the younger kids at the orphanage, fearing they might struggle over a few dollars, just like I had. When I found out Ashley had been accepted into the same university as us, I almost jumped for joy. Ethan, this is great. Another one of our younger siblings got in. From now on, things at the orphanage will get better and better. I personally went to pick her up, helped her move her suitcase, and showed her around the university campus. I shared what little money I had left with her and told her not to use those 20-cent sanitary pads. Even though those were what I used myself. Yet she never grew close to me. Whenever something happened, her first call was always to Ethan. Once, during class, Ethan complained to me with a frown, "What's up with your dear sister, asking me to bring her sanitary pads? I have a girlfriend, doesn't she have any sense of propriety?" That day, I left Ethan and ran alone to the adjacent building to bring her sanitary pads. There, I saw Ashley, hunched over her desk, sobbing uncontrollably. Her phone, lying on the desk, still displayed the message Ethan had sent. "It's not appropriate, I have a girlfriend. You show. LD ask classmates from your own class for help with things like this in the future." I handed her the sanitary pads, but she threw them on the ground. The girl cried and ran out of the classroom. In my previous life, I never saw her again. Until the day of my car accident. The girl, lying beneath Ethan, a bright smile on her face, said in a light tone, "Luna, this pregnancy of yours, it's really bad timing. A man's heart, you know, can't be held by a baby." I rushed back to the rental apartment as quickly as I could. This old apartment held all my life's expectations for love. Back then, I didn't have much money. I didn't understand the intricacies of business, couldn't tell bag brands apart, or recognize luxury car logos. And I was only 22. Ethan said, "Luna, I'll get you a big house. Then, you won't have to shower in the communal bathroom in the hallway, or worry about intermittent power outages, or fear the landlord constantly demanding rent. I'll give you a good life, a real home." That day, I cried for a long time in Ethan's arms, my eyes brimming with tears. Not for the big house he mentioned, but solely for the home he spoke of. That was something I had longed for 20 years, ever since my parents died when I was 4. Back then, I naively believed that happiness would finally be within my grasp. How utterly, ridiculously foolish. I wiped my face and pulled my suitcase from under the bed. I recalled that right after graduation, we didn't have much, so it would be easy to sort things out. A few sets of faded clothes and my toiletries were packed inside. Before closing the suitcase, I spotted a colored glass bottle on the windowsill. It was my wishing bottle. My hands trembling, I picked it up. I hadn't seen this bottle in a long time. That was probably in our 7th year of marriage. During another argument, Ethan had deliberately smashed it on the ground. My 20-year heart's desire was swept into the trash along with the shattered GLA. Opening the cap, I randomly pulled out one of the paper stars. "I like Ethan. I hope Ethan doesn't get hurt again." 2008, when I was 8 years old. What happened that year, I wonder? I think I was crying and insisting on seeing my dying grandmother, but Mama wouldn't allow it because the journey was too long. Ethan secretly pulled me over the wall in the middle of the night to run away, and to protect me, he lost a front tooth. The second one, Mama is sick. Ethan said birthday wishes are the most powerful, so I hope Mama gets better soon. 2012, Ethan says he likes me. I hope it's true and he's not lying. 2017, I like Ethan. I hope that idiot can score a few more points and get into the same school as me. 2018. The sound of keys turning came from the door. I quickly wiped the tears from my face and tucked the bottle into my suitcase. Ethan gently opened the door, and when his eyes met mine, he suddenly started crying. Luna, what did I do wrong? I'm sorry, I really don't know. I don't know. He pouted slightly, giving me an extremely sad, tear-streaked face. If I really made you unhappy, scold me, but please don't leave me. My mind felt as if a thunderclap had exploded. Years later, I, too, had cried and said almost the exact same words to him. Back then, I had just lost our first child. Our arguments hadn't become so acrimonious yet. He wouldn't bring his lovers home, nor would he argue fiercely with me over minor disagreements. He would just avoid me. He wouldn't answer my calls, avoiding every chance to see me. Finally, before I completely broke down, I ran crying to the company we had built together. Like a madwoman, I hysterically pounded on the office door, drawing sympathetic glances from my colleagues at the company. That day, I held Ethan, whom I hadn't seen in nearly a month, and cried, if I really made you unhappy, scold me, but please don't leave me. His arms stiff, he gently wrapped them around me. It's not your fault, I'm just feeling conflicted. In that moment, it was as if I had traveled through the long years and stood before the man who was struggling in pain just like me. The only difference was that I knew why Ethan was avoiding me, but this 22-year-old version of him knew nothing yet. I sighed. It's not your fault, we're just not compatible. You might really like me now, but later on, you could like someone else just as much. You'll see me as a burden, the source of your pain and resentment. How could I? Luna, why would you think that? Did something happen? There's nothing more to say. You know, once I've made up my mind, I don't turn back. I snapped my suitcase shut and walked past him directly, turning back to look at him before closing the door. Ethan, I wish you a brilliant future, and may you grow old together and have a big family with the person you truly love. He was trembling all over, his round eyes full of tears. That gaze, filled with confusion and unease, clung tightly to me. I couldn't stop my tears from falling, but I still slammed the door shut when he tried to follow. It was a swamp overgrown with flowers, a tragedy with a predetermined ending. I refused to fall into it again. Walking out of the old apartment building, I ran into a mother and daughter returning home. The little girl obediently held her mother's hand, reciting the classical poem she had just learned at school today. The woman looked lovingly at her, offering praise now and then. I stood there, stunned for a moment. The woman was Brenda, whom I called Brenda, and the little girl was Lily, 7 years old. In my previous life, we were neighbors for 2 years. It was because of Lily that Ethan and I once had our greatest obsession, to have a daughter. But we both knew that with our circumstances, we couldn't properly care for a child. So, in the days that followed, Ethan and I worked even more desperately. In just 2 years, we had accumulated a significant amount of savings. We moved to a new house, invited Mama and a group of younger children, and we had a simple yet warm wedding ceremony. That day, Ethan got drunk, which was very rare for him. He held me, murmuring softly, Luna, we finally have a home. Yes, we finally have a home. A warm liquid dampened my shoulder. I gently patted his back and told him I would always be with him. But I really want a child with you, Luna. Just imagine, a new life, a child of our own. His voice was full of anticipation, and his gaze was so tender it startled me. So from that day on, we stopped taking precautions. We began to hope for a child of our own. Only, that year, we didn't realize that this most ordinary wish would take so many years to come true. Watching the mother and daughter walk away, embracing, I softly exhaled. Looking back one last time at this old neighborhood where I had lived for 2 years, I couldn't help but smile bitterly. When did he start to grow tired of our life together? Was it the year the company was just founded? Back then, everything was just starting. We had endless work and countless dinner engagements every day. I had a severe psychological trauma from being harassed at a business dinner once. I didn't dare attend business entertaining alone, nor did I trust Ethan to go alone. Whenever I closed my eyes, all I saw was the supervisor smashing the chair down on him. Ethan proactively suggested he take me with him. If we went together, I wouldn't worry. But as time went on, I also found it strange. Those men always brought different female companions. and the mocking, contemptuous glances they gave Ethan made me very uncomfortable. Finally, when Ethan once again brought me to the hotel, the host looked a little awkward. In a large private dining room, there were 4 men and 5 women. Not a single one of the 5 women was their wife. "Oh, Mr. Song, I didn't realize you were so henpecked." The man at the head of the table joked with a smile, but Ethan just offered a helpless laugh in return. His gaze at me was full of helplessness and pleading. I sighed. "You guys have fun, I'm going home first." This was my trust in my husband. I firmly believed he wouldn't betray me. Even as I closed the door, I watched the lone woman smilingly sit down next to him. An arm softly rested on his shoulder, and he didn't push it away. I gradually realized that something between Ethan and me had quietly changed. But I didn't understand. I didn't get it. He was the only man I had ever loved in over 20 years. Besides him, my romantic history was a blank slate. I didn't know what newness meant. Nor did I understand why someone who had so solemnly sworn to love me for a lifetime would also have moments of drifting away. All I knew was that Ethan was dead drunk that day, and his shirt buttons were mismatched. That was our first argument. He said, "Haven't I been good enough for you? Which businessmen don't have mistresses on the side? I've never done it once. I just had a few drinks today. This is normal business entertaining. You have a trauma from business events and never go to them alone. You don't go, and you won't let me go either? How are we supposed to do business then?" His scolding left me stunned, and I didn't react for a long time. But he seemed to get angrier and angrier. Even though he was swaying, he clearly listed my faults one by one. Overly sensitive, still trembling when mentioning the harassment at the business dinner 5 or 6 years ago. Childish, clingy, following him everywhere, embarrassing him in front of his business partners. "Luna, this isn't the past anymore. We have our own business now, a change in status, so of course we need to change our lifestyle. Do you know how long I was laughed at after you left today?" I was struck by lightning in that instant, numbly repeating his words, "change in lifestyle. Laughed at you. But why? Can't businessmen still be good to their loved ones?" "Why, Ethan?" His bewild aired eyes cleared for a moment, then he slowly shifted his gaze to my wrist, which he had been clutching tightly. As if burned, he hastily released his grip. He rubbed his temples with one hand. "I'm sorry, honey, I'm drunk." He swayed, turned to go downstairs, but missed a step and was about to fall. With quick reflexes, I grabbed his arm, but my body tilted, and I tumbled down the stairs. The staircase wasn't high. I could even manage a reassuring smile as Ethan cried out and scrambled towards me. But immediately after, a piercing pain in my lower abdomen spread throughout my entire body. A pool of dazzling blood stained my dress. My first child, unknown to me, had quietly departed before I even knew he had arrived. When I woke up in the hospital, Ethan was sitting blankly by the bedside. In just 2 days, he had become much thinner, his cheeks hollow, and his face unshaven. "Luna, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." He lay by the bedside, sobbing uncontrollably, swearing he would never let me suffer any grievance again. Later, I thought more than once that I should have left then. I had clearly seen the problems in our marriage, yet due to an ethereal love, I chose to concede again and again. It was a July evening, and even the wind was hot. Standing downstairs, lost in thought for a moment, I was already drenched in sweat. The happy mother and daughter had long since walked past me. I didn't linger. I pulled my suitcase and walked out of the community. It was on the 5th day after I separated from Ethan that I received a call from Mama. That loving middle-aged woman, after learning about our breakup, didn't say a single word of accusation. She just said, "You've been wronged, haven't you?" At that time I had just found a new job, and the job application form in my hand was instantly soaked with tears. "Mama." I didn't say anything. Those experiences of being hurt and betrayed were my secret alone. But she still insisted I had been wronged. "If doesn't want to talk about it, that's fine. Mama is just a little worried about you. Ethan, that boy, just left today, crying like his world had fallen apart. I just wondered, is my Luna also very sad? Luna used to come to Mama when she was wronged, but this time, you didn't come." "Mama, I'm fine. It's just that we weren't destined to be, and I don't want to continue." She was silent for a long time on the other end of the phone. Finally, she said with a smile, "Come back when you're on holiday. Mama wants to hug you. Mama needs you." I desperately covered my mouth with my hand, just barely stopping myself from bursting into tears in front of my colleagues on my first day of work. Perhaps I had struggled in hardship for so long that I had forgotten there were things more important than love in the world. I returned to the orphanage a month later. By then, I had just received my first month's salary, 26,000, which was higher than I expected. After the miscarriage that year, I went to see a therapist alone. I thought, one can't always live in the shadows. I needed to gather courage and step towards the distant sunlight. I actively cooperated with the treatment, and after overcoming the grief of losing a child, the past traumas gradually faded. I started to go out for business entertaining, just like Ethan used to, and gradually learned how to interact with all sorts of people. This was the most valuable thing I learned in those 10 years. And now, that valuable experience was guiding me towards a new life. It allowed me, at the age of 22, to hold my own against those shrewd businessmen in the business world. I bought new backpacks and school supplies for the younger kids. I also insisted on taking Mama to the hospital for a checkup. In my previous life, Mama didn't live to see me succeed. Not long after Ethan and I had our wedding ceremony, she passed away from a sudden heart attack due to overwork. Now, I repeatedly warned her not to work so hard, assuring her that I would share the burden with her from now on. Your daughter is capable now, and she'll earn even more money in the future. Mama, I don't want anything else, I just want you to be with me forever. As I was walking slowly into the orphanage, arm in arm with her, Mama suddenly stopped. Following her gaze, I saw the person I least wanted to see standing at the entrance of the orphanage. He looked much thinner, his height of over 1.8 meters now seemed as if he could be blown away by a gust of wind. He leaned gently against the gate, straightening up slightly when he saw us. From a distance, I couldn't make out his expression, but I could feel he had something to say. Unwilling to get entangled, I handed Mama the things I'd bought, gave her a couple of instructions, and turned to leave. My biggest worry was that Ethan would follow me, inevitably leading to another scene. But he didn't. He just stood there, letting the evening sun stretch his shadow longer and longer. Even when I reached the corner and looked back, he was still motionless, as if rooted to the spot. My heart trembled. I felt that something about him was different. The days that followed passed faster than I expected. I poured all my energy into work, simply wanting to earn more money to lighten Mama's burden. In the blink of an eye, it was the winter of 2025. I had been graduated for 3 years. In my previous life, Mama had passed away this year. Even though she was still very robust, I was still afraid. I was so afraid that I suffered from insomnia night after night. I thought, perhaps I haven't matured at all. I was still afraid of loneliness, still so desperate for someone who loved me to walk this long road of life with me. Unable to endure such torment, I simply took a month-long leave and returned to the orphanage to care for Mama. Many of the younger children here had already gotten into high school and college. Fortunately, the money I had saved over these years was enough for them to continue their studies. There were fewer children left at the orphanage, and Mama no longer had to put in so much effort. I liked to lie on her lap and sunbathe. She would gently comb my hair with a short wooden comb, smiling as she recalled funny stories from my childhood. However, we both tacitly avoided mentioning the person who had been such a significant part of my youth. Mama also seemed to know that it was a void in my life, painful to touch, and destined to remain unhealed. On Eve, the orphanage received a large package of gifts. Each gift had a name handwritten on it, including Mama's and mine. I recognized Ethan's handwriting at a glance. After opening the box with my name on it, I was stunned for a moment. A pair of colorful, ugly dolls. I was somewhat incredulous. Was it a coincidence? In my previous life, in 2025, Ethan and I often went to a particular restaurant that held a new raffle. The third prize was this pair of loving couple dolls. Back then, we had just lost Mama. To comfort me, as I had been unable to eat or sleep for many days, Ethan came up with a plan. He said, "Luna, we absolutely must win those dolls today. Look how much they're like us, inseparable and in love. Let's eat more and draw more times. We have to get them." Actually, not many people were dining there that day. But as if it were destined by fate, we almost ate until we puked, drawing tickets for the raffle more than a dozen times. We won all the prizes except for those dolls. Only the third prize, we just couldn't win. Ethan said with a soft laugh, "Luna, do you think the boss did it on purpose? He probably didn't even put the doll's winning number in the box." However, the very next second after he finished speaking, a couple pulled out a small ball representing the third prize from the number box. We were caught between laughter and tears, and this became my obsession for a long time afterward. I searched every major shopping platform but could never find identical dolls. I half-jokingly said, "Are we not destined?" Ethan's face darkened. "Don't talk nonsense. I'll definitely find you an identical pair." Later, the boss secretly told me that my husband had desperately pleaded with him to sell him a pair of those third-prize dolls. But his wife had made them by hand, and only that one pair. Now his wife had returned to her hometown after the new and had no time to make more. If we really wanted them, his wife would make us a pair for free when she had time. I thanked him with a smile, playfully complaining that Ethan was an idiot. Later, we moved several times and had long forgotten about it. But 4 years later, that winter, the boss suddenly sent me a message. Young lady, my wife made you a pair of dolls. Come pick them up. But by then, Ethan and I were constantly at odds. He was becoming more and more like those businessmen I had met. He changed female companions one after another. Usually, I hadn't even memorized the last one's face before he'd replaced her with someone prettier. He said, Luna, I didn't cheat, I just brought them along for appearances. For the first time, I entertained the foolish idea of fighting fire with fire. I paid a young man to be my driver and accompany me to business meetings. That day, after the dinner concluded, Ethan rushed to the hotel in a rage. He flew into a rage, swinging his fist at the boy right in front of the business partners. I stood firmly in front of him, my gaze at Ethan extremely calm. What are you so angry about? I didn't cheat, I just brought him along for appearances. His face flushed with anger, he sneered and left. I turned back to look at the bewildered boy. Suddenly, I felt it was all so pointless. This idea, this thought, was truly foolish, truly pointless. In the end, I never went to pick up those dolls. Thank you, and I'm sorry, but I don't need them anymore. We didn't deserve those dolls. Nor did we deserve the kindness of that good-hearted boss and his wife. But now, that pair of dolls lay quietly in my palm, as if to remind me that I would never escape that nightmare in this lifetime. Ethan, after all, had come. It was Christmas, you see. I had long prepared myself to see him. Mama had said he often visited over the past few years. However, knowing I disliked him and didn't want to see him, he deliberately avoided the times I was visiting. It had always been this way, but this year, he suddenly called Mama in advance, asking if he could come home for Christmas. Mama asked for my opinion with her eyes, but I just smiled and raised my chin, indicating it was fine. My unwillingness to see him didn't mean Mama felt the same. I was her daughter, and he was her son too. I couldn't be so selfish. So, when Ethan, bundled up tightly, stood at the door looking at me, I remained emotionless. But he seemed extremely agitated, his gaze glued to my face, impossible to tear away. I turned my face away, picking through vegetables, letting a group of younger kids swarm him, calling out brother, brother. Amidst the clamor, however, I suddenly heard Ashley's voice. Luna, let me help you. She squeezed past Ethan, smiling as she spoke to me. I was somewhat shocked, not by their simultaneous appearance, but because Ashley had been graduated for 2 years and had never returned. Mama worried about her, calling her repeatedly, but Ashley either wouldn't answer or made excuses about being busy. I scoffed. What a strange day, everyone, expected or not, had shown up. I put down the vegetables and walked indoors, hearing Ethan say, I didn't come with her, we met at the door. I paused, then found it amusing. He never offered an explanation when I needed it. Now I have no standing or desire to hear one, making his gesture pointless. I stayed hidden inside until Christmas dinner, when I saw Ethan again, now without his coat. I was startled. This man was nothing but skin and bones. I hadn't looked closely at the door, but now I saw his complexion was abnormally pale. Mama was terribly worried, constantly asking if he was sick. I frowned, unable to recall any serious illness he might have had at this point in time. Ethan smiled and shook his head. Not sick, just tired from work. While he spoke, his eyes were fixed on me, which irritated me somewhat. After I glared back, he reined himself in considerably. Ashley looked at the two of us, then suddenly opened her mouth with a smile. Ethan, I heard you started your own company. Could I come work for you? Ethan immediately frowned. You can't handle the work at my company. Just as Ashley was about to say something else, Mama suddenly walked over, smiling, and announced she was handing out gifts, changing the subject. Ashley shot Ethan an unwilling glance, but ultimately didn't speak again. After dinner, I retreated to my room. Listening to the laughter and chatter from the living room, I gradually fell asleep. In the middle of the night, Leo, one of the younger boys living with Ethan, came crying and knocked on my door. Luna, I can't wake Ethan up. His head is burning hot. I rushed after him, only to find Ethan looking as if he'd just been pulled from the water. His face was almost ashen, and his body shook uncontrollably. My heart seized with alarm, and I quickly placed my hand on his forehead. It felt like touching a blazing furnace. Leo, go get the keys from my bag. As I spoke, I tried to help Ethan up to put on his jacket. I initially thought he'd be difficult to control, given his hazy consciousness. But he had woken up at some point, his eyes bloodshot, looking at me groggily. Luna. Yes, you have a fever, do you know that? I'm taking you to the hospital now. Arm out, let's get you dressed. He was exceptionally compliant, doing whatever I asked. Even trembling with fever, he didn't give me much trouble. The most defiant thing he did was cling stubbornly to my hand. But, as soon as I got him into the car, he suddenly became agitated, wrapping his arms tightly around my waist. Luna, I was wrong, please don't leave me, please don't leave me. That wasn't me. He held me so tightly I could barely breathe. I was shocked. How could someone so thin have such strength? Ethan, let go. No, I won't. Don't leave me, please, hit me, yell at me. He seemed to go mad, slamming his head violently against the car window. I'll help you, hit him, kill him. He scared me so much my hands were shaking. Seeing the red, swollen bumps appearing on his forehead, I quickly pulled open the car door. Are you out of your mind? Okay, I won't argue, I won't leave you. I patiently comforted him, gently patting his back, helping him calm down little by little. The commotion at the door quickly woke everyone in the orphanage. Ashley ran over, crying, asking what was happening. Ethan, who had just quieted down, became even more agitated the moment he saw Ashley. He suddenly yanked me into the car and pushed Ashley away. Luna, don't hurt my Luna, get out, all of you get out. Everyone was too scared to approach him. Therefore, no one noticed my hand, which he gripped tightly, was trembling. He held me, refusing to let go, no matter what, so Mama, with no other choice, called an ambulance. Ethan's body grew hotter and hotter, his lips were parched, and his eyes slowly lost focus. Yet he held me the entire time, not letting me leave his side for a step. He was trembling so violently, his words came out in broken fragments. Luna, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I don't know why that happened. That wasn't me, bad. Kill him. I pressed down on his arm, preventing him from hitting his head with his fists. He just bit his lower lip until it was bleeding profusely. I didn't know when I started crying. When the warm liquid hit the back of my hand, I was surprised. Could I still cry for this person? Okay, stop biting, I believe you. I believe that wasn't you. It wasn't until he was on the ambulance that he finally, under the control of the medical staff, released my hand. He lay there on the stretcher, gasping for breath, his eyes fixed on me with obsessive intensity. He had no strength left to speak, but his lips still constantly mumbled something. I could clearly see what he was saying, don't leave me. When I saw Ethan in the hospital room, he was still unconscious. 120 degrees Fahrenheit, the doctor said, he was just moments away from dying from the fever. Mama was unable to eat or sleep with worry and insisted on coming to see him. I worried it was cold outside and stopped her, promising to keep her updated on his condition. I sat by his bedside, finally having time to properly think about what had happened over the past 2 days. I was certain that Ethan remembered some things from his past life. I just didn't know which parts he remembered and which he didn't. I sighed, wanting to pull the blanket over him, but then I noticed the scars on his wrists. There were new ones and old ones, the newest ones had just scabbed over. He cut his wrists? More than once. I felt a constriction in my breathing, and a throbbing ache spread through my chest. I closed my eyes and took a long time to calm down before the pain subsided. When I opened my eyes again, I met Ethan's gaze. He was no longer as frantic as yesterday. Instead, he carefully pinched my fingertips. A sudden surge of anger flared within me, and I violently yanked my hand away from his. Ethan, have you really grown so bold? Now you're cutting your wrists. He was momentarily flustered, then struggled to sit up. No, I'm sorry, Luna, please don't be angry. Tell me, what was it for? What could be so important that it's worth risking your life? What could be more important than life itself? He was so anxious he was almost crying, taking several deep breaths before speaking with difficulty. Okay, I'll tell you. Luna, I think I know why you left me. From the day you broke up with me, I've had dreams every night, dreams where we lived completely different lives. At first it was okay, even though we were so poor we could only share one bowl of noodles, we were happy every day. He seemed to fall into a deep memory. Do you know, during that time after you left me, I kept going by dreaming every day? I lied to myself that it was the life we were living, that you never left. But. His eyes filled with tears again, and he gritted his teeth, his face a mask of resentment and indignation. But then, the dream became very strange. That person who looked just like me, he hurt my Luna. How dare he? He said those terrible things to you, deliberately avoided you after you lost our child. He made you bear all that pain alone. I just can't accept that person was my future self. I hate him. I wish he would die. I really couldn't take it anymore. I missed Luna so much. I wanted to see you, even though I knew you hated me, I still wanted to see you. The day before yesterday, I went to that restaurant I'd seen in my dream, Luna. Luna, do you know? I won that doll. I won it. He cried and laughed intermittently, trembling all over when he got excited. I wanted to give it to you. It was one of the few things you ever wanted. Do you still like it? There was a sickly smile on his face, and his eyes were sparkling. But I only felt alarmed. Ethan's mental state was truly not good. I remained silent, and he didn't rush me, but the smile on his lips quickly faltered. Luna, do you know what the last dream I had last night was? I had already guessed. I had already guessed what happened in the dream that utterly shattered him. Ethan, don't say any more. He seemed a little stunned. I then said, those were all dreams. You're right, that person wasn't you, and you don't need to repent for his mistakes. He lowered his head and was silent for a long time before he spoke with a sob, but still doesn't want me. It's because of that person my Luna doesn't want me anymore. I looked up at him and gently wiped the tears from his face. That wasn't your fault, but Ethan, I'm so scared. You don't know how scared I was, of that person. I was afraid of his impatient gaze when he looked at me. I was afraid of the harsh words he'd say. I was afraid he would suddenly abandon me and leave. I lived cautiously every day, hoping that tomorrow he would be the same as before, but he wasn't. He grew tired of our life together. Before could speak, I gently hugged him, my voice trembling. Ethan, our future holds countless possibilities. Why don't we try to walk that path? I've moved past that dream, and I believe you will too. Promise me you won't live a life of such suffering like in the dream, okay? He cried with his eyes closed, and before I let go, he gently nodded. Okay. Then, Luna, if in 5 or 10 years, we haven't become like those people in the dream, please give me another chance, okay? I didn't answer. Perhaps only time could answer that. A few days later, before leaving the hospital, I looked back at him one last time. The person sleeping in the hospital bed had gained a little weight since being admitted. The faint sunlight streaming through the curtains cast a glow on his face, momentarily transporting me back. I felt as if I had returned to that morning when I was 4 years old, picked up by Mama and brought to the orphanage. In the quiet orphanage, there was only one boy my age. He held a sunflower, walking towards me step by step, bathed in the soft light. Don't cry, don't cry. I'll protect you from now on. I'll always, protect you. Extra, Ethan, this was the 3rd year since Luna and I had parted. When I inadvertently passed a restaurant, I was surprisingly drawn to a 3rd prize. It was a pair of really ugly dolls. But a voice in my heart told me, stop. Get them. Luna loves them. I felt like I had lost my mind, inexplicably running into the restaurant, ordering 7 or GHT baskets of steamed dumplings, almost eating until I vomited. It had been a long time since I'd eaten so much. Because of that strange dream, I was finding it hard to distinguish between reality and illusion. The hatred for that person in the dream and my longing for Luna had also led me to severe self-destructive tendencies. Insomnia, reduced appetite, self-harm. I didn't know how much longer I could live. Yet I still chose to run in and waste my life. In the dream, Luna and I reached into that box again and again, but never drew the result we wanted. Her disappointed eyes, I still remember clearly to this day. Every time I thought of it, my heart ached. And now, I stood before this box once more. With guilt and longing for my beloved, I reached my hand in again. No one knew why an adult man would be so excited to win a pair of ugly dolls that he would squat on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. Just as no one knew that I was close to being driven mad by longing. On Eve, I finally saw my Luna. Even though she still didn't want to see me, I wanted to be near her. But I didn't expect that night. I dreamed of a scene I had never witnessed before. Ashley, my sister whom I hadn't seen in many years, lay on my and Luna's bed, playfully flirting with me. I stood beside them, watching this bizarre scene, wishing I could strangle the adulterers right then. But I was destined to fail. I could only watch the absurd scene unfold, hating it so much I felt like spitting blood. Luna came through the door at that moment, holding a lab result, indicating that I and she were having another child. Even though I instinctively believed that person wasn't me, I still felt happy. Luna, how much she wanted to have a child of her own. But everything came to naught. I watched the glaring pool of blood on the road, listening to the other Ethan's desperate cries, and completely broke down with him. I wandered in that dream for a long time, unable to find a way to wake up. It wasn't until the mentally unstable Ethan pulled Ashley and jumped off the building together that I suddenly woke up. At that time, Luna, who had left me in the dream, stood alive right before my eyes. To be honest, I didn't know if that Ethan still loved Luna. Nor did I know if his final desperate act was due to love or guilt. I only knew that my Luna would never come near me again. Such a heartbreaking experience, once was enough. This was the 10th year since I separated from Luna. It was also the time in that strange dream when Luna died. In these 10 years, I'd seen her only a handful of times. Or rather, after she left the hospital, we'd only met once. That was last winter. Mama, who had painstakingly raised us, passed away at the age of 65. Luna, who had been avoiding me, cried her eyes out at the funeral. I finally understood why Mama had repeatedly warned me not to tell Luna when she was sick. It turned out Luna was pregnant. But I didn't see her husband by her side. In that instant, many unpleasant conjectures formed in my mind. Had she met another scoundrel like me? I could barely suppress the urge to fight that rotten man. But a younger sister kneeling beside me told me Luna wasn't married. Her child was conceived through IVF. I was momentarily stunned, and inevitably thought of the 2 children Luna had lost. My heart twisted with pain, but at the same time, I was happy for her. Luna, she finally had a blood relative again. She was different from a scoundrel like me. She was destined to find all the happiness in the world. My eyes involuntarily followed her, only lowering my gaze shamefully when I heard her asking about Ashley. Ashley had latched onto me after I was discharged from the hospital. I had warned her many times not to bother me, but she never listened. Every time I saw her, the image of Luna's car accident reappeared before me. I finally couldn't take it anymore and used many of my connections to block her career path in the industry. A few years ago, she was forced to leave this city and find a livelihood elsewhere. I thought, if it weren't for Mama, I might have done something even more extreme. When I looked up again, Luna was watching me, her eyes full of doubt. I hurried over, then stopped 2 steps away from her. She just went to another city, I didn't do anything else. She paused, then smiled. I smiled too, and as I smiled, tears streamed down my face. That day, she didn't say a single word to me. But I was so certain, she finally no longer hated me. I was already content, to the point of waking up smiling from dreams. Just as she said, the future is long. I am still waiting for her. Always, always waiting for her.